Well, when we look back at the creation of this idea of race that we live with today, there's value that's placed on different groups depending on which racial group they belong to. And for the tradition in America, blacks have typically been at the bottom of that hierarchy of races. And part of the reason for that is that there had to be some type of justification for enslaving people based on the color of their skin. Native Americans were enslaved, and blacks were enslaved in the country legally. And so when you look at that, you have to say, well, why were these particular groups picked out as groups to be enslaved, and why is that history so difficult to talk about? We're all familiar with the fact that there was a genocide of Native Americans in America and that their land was taken from them forcibly. And we're all familiar with the fact that slavery existed. But what I think is missing from most of our understanding of those two things is the brutality of both. The violence that was attached with maintaining the system of slavery was very, very brutal. And we don't really get into those conversations because we've been taught that, well, not all of the slave masters were horrible. Some of them were kind of kind, and all of these other things that people use as distractions instead of talking about the history of the brutality. And this was something that was known by all who were slave masters. They realized that the greatest tool they had at their disposal to control blacks was the institution of violence and whatever means that they were going to use it. And so because of that, we as Americans don't like to talk about that period of time. We've been taught that those are things that are from the past and we shouldn't have conversations about them. We need to move along and consider things that are happening nowadays. But if you look, there's a straight line from the violence of the days of enslavement to the violence that blacks suffer even to this day in our communities around the country.